Hi guys, it's Rob from Royal Balls. Since I took the spy cam out of the maternal girl to give her a bit of a break for a week or so until the eggs hatch, I haven't been slacking on the terrarium male. The last update I did, he'd settled quite nicely back into the terrarium. So here you can see his nightly ambush routine in the entrance to the underground tunnel, where he's nice and safe but does expect food, and each day he goes back underground. I did actually see him climbing a little bit, which was actually really nice to see. Here he is, but he's still got his tail in the tunnel. Alright guys, so here he is, the terrarium snake. He's actually getting quite big. He looks fantastic. I did have to go in and strip down the terrarium to clean out the underground portion because he is now completely settled and back to his normal routine of living predominantly underground. Except when I mess with him and put sheds on the top of the terrarium, he doesn't do a great deal. But I have noticed, as he's got larger, a more aggressive feeding response on feeding nights. He is prepared to come more out of the tunnel to actually come out and catch his food when I offer it, rather than just sitting in the entrance to the tunnel and waiting for me to deliver it. He knows when it's feeding time and he's now prepared to come out and get it instead of wait for it. I am seeing some benefits now of keeping this guy in a terrarium, because at night he does come out and sometimes will sit on the top of the tree trunk for half an hour or so, but if I disturb him he goes straight back down underground. So he is coming out for very short periods. He isn't active for very long and goes straight back underground, but I do now get to see him from time to time, which is absolutely great because this guy is phenomenal. He is getting a little bit big. He is still using the tunnel system quite easily. He isn't getting caught up in it or struggling to use it. But I'm thinking this experiment now, I think we've seen some pretty interesting behaviour. It's time to change him out for a small female to see whether we can see any differences in behaviour there. We know that moving him from a terrarium to a tub doesn't affect him at all. He doesn't seem to care very much. He is using the terrarium a little more than he did, but not to the extent that I would say that a terrarium offers him any advantages. He uses very little of it for very little of the time and seems quite content to remain underground for the rest of the time, so may as well be in a tub. But that's just me. There you go. We'll continue this experiment, I think, with a small female, and we'll put this guy into a grow-on tub because he's getting a little bit large now. But what a fantastic animal. I think what I'll do is to shoot some video on feeding night just to show you that this guy has increased in confidence. I've got some shots of him resting up the tree for you guys, so you can see that he does occasionally use some of the terrarium, and he is now completely settled. No more of that restless wandering and pushing at the roof of the terrarium. For those 2 days when we noticed that his behaviour was slightly odd, we have been able to cure that, which tells me that that behaviour was not normal behaviour. It's not normal for a ball python to wander around the terrarium, pushing and probing and trying to get out. Something was definitely bothering him, and that was fixed by moving him to the new location. We put him in the tub first, where he settled. We put him back in the terrarium in the new location, and he settled straight back down in the terrarium as well. And if you remember, we then messed with this guy with some sheds from females and males, which induced the restless behaviour again. But as soon as the sheds were removed, within a couple of days he settled straight back down and resumed pretty much his normal behaviour. I did wake him up, so this is not really a good time to free roam this guy. You can see he is actually going back into the tub. He doesn't want to free roam, so we'll put him back in the terrarium and I'll give you an update shortly. So here we go, a bit of climbing. This is why we wanted the terrarium. And as I said, his feed response is now getting very aggressive. This guy is quite confident.
And after eating, he remains up there in ambush position.
Now, I have been pairing up snakes here in the snake room, and one of the snakes that I paired up is actually in the rack where this little guy is now sitting, and he's been perfectly fine for weeks, back to his normal routine, living underground. And then I paired up some snakes. When I unpaired them, I moved the male back into the rack right underneath his terrarium, and guess what happened? I did notice he was a little unsettled on the first night. I did notice that he was out and about.
So this behavior in and of itself is not a concern. What drew my attention was the time that he's doing it. Normally ball pythons are not active all night long, and this was quite late at night, which attracted my attention. Why is he out at a time he's not normally out?
So I put the spy cam on him, and yes, we caught him in action again. Now, it does appear that these male snakes are very, very sensitive to proximity of other males, and also what's going on in the snake room around them. I'm not saying this is abnormal behaviour. I'm just saying the snakes can't respond to it in either a tub or a terrarium as they probably would in the wild. And this guy again is trying to put some distance between himself and the other breeder males. He's also gone back into the surface hide and not gone back underground. So I'm going to monitor him for a couple of more days, see whether he actually does settle down. He wasn't restless for more than an hour or two at the normal time that ball pythons are active. So I'm not panicking too much, but it is behaviour that he doesn't do all the time. So obviously something unusual causes that behaviour.
So here he is, out and about, very late at night, which is quite unusual. So I'm setting up the spy cam just to see what he does when I'm not actually there. This behavior is not so much of a concern. He's actually climbing, he's using rectilinear motion, and his body is in contact with all of the surface that he's climbing on. So this is a normal movement for a ball python. This is the way that they would normally be expected to climb, but you'll see in a moment the specific behavior that concerns me when these guys actually get restless and try to escape. So here he is now reaching for the top of the terrarium, and it's this behavior that concerns me. This is not normal movement for a ball python. Normally they would not have their bodies out of contact with the ground. We've seen this type of behavior before when we've forced ball pythons to climb and they use a bridging technique. So he's anchoring his lower body and his upper body is not in contact with anything, and he's reaching up to the top of the terrarium to try to find a way out. And it's this specific behavior. And here again, we see it. His body is not in contact with the ground. He's very unstable. He's reaching up for the top of the terrarium. And it's this specific behavior that I am saying is unsettled behavior and not normal. This indicates that something is wrong. Now, I have heard that they do this in tubs. It's just that we can't see them doing it in tubs, and I disagree. If you know your animals, you know when you open a tub what your animal has been up to. Most of my snakes are fast asleep on a morning, but very occasionally I do get a male that's right at the front of the tub, and as soon as I open the tub, he sticks his head out. That male has been doing what this male is doing right here in the video, and that is what I'm calling unsettled behavior, and that needs remedial action. It needs us to shift the tub in the rack, or it needs us to do something to get this guy to settle back down. He is trying to get out of this terrarium and put some distance between himself and the other snakes in the room.
Again, drop down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. The terrarium experiment keeps on giving and giving. We're getting more and more information about these guys. So I'm going to continue that with this terrarium, although maybe not necessarily with this same snake. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.